Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the show. I am Katie Dalebout, your host of this podcast, as well as the author of the new book, Let It Out, A Journey Through Journaling, which is out now and has been out for a while. So before we get into today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about my book and just thank everyone who has bought the book, who is using the book. It's been so fun to meet people while I've been traveling. I've just been having a blast seeing your shelfies of the book on Snapchat and on Instagram, and shelfies meaning pictures of you with the book, pictures of the book on your shelf, using the hashtag Let It Out Book. They've been so fun to see. Keep them coming. I love seeing you snap pictures in your local Barnes & Noble or your bookstores. It's so fun to see. So thank you so much for buying the book, reading the book. It's really cool now that it's out of me. It's now there for you to have your own experience. And it's really kind of a greatest hits of me, of everything I've learned over the past, 3 or 4 years or so from doing the podcast and a lot of things that I've read. And I did a lot of research for the book, and it's just so cool to have it out there. So if you bought it on Amazon, or even if you didn't, if you wouldn't mind, if you liked it, leaving a review on Amazon, it would be so helpful and I'd really appreciate it. So that would be really cool. And while you're tossing reviews out, you might as well, if you haven't already, or just if you like the show, it'd be so cool if you could hop on over to iTunes and leave a review for the podcast and subscribe to the podcast on your phone. That is a really great way to not miss any episodes. And I'm actually going to be releasing some bonus episodes. There's going to be some really great bonus content coming your way because it's actually my birthday week. So just stay tuned for that. The best way is to be subscribed on iTunes and be on my email list. And when you join my email list, you get the quick start guide to living in the Wellness Wonderland, aka Katie's favorite things. And it's all my favorite foods, my favorite apps, my favorite podcasts, my favorite books, my favorite movies, videos, everything you could ever want to know that inspires me. And I get to really be a curator to bring you content, which is what I do with the podcast. And I'm really just an enthusiast. I'm not an expert, I'm an enthusiast. And that's what the Quick Start Guide is. So that's over on my website, very easy to find. Link is in the show notes. And today's show is amazing. Emily Nolan is here to chat with us on everything from topless yoga to being a model, and she's way cool. I wanted to have her on the show for a while, and now she is here. So let's get into the interview. But really quick, actually, one more thing to ramble about. I have some dates for you for me coming up, traveling for my book tour a bit, having some events that I get to meet you guys, sign books, hang out. It's going to be super fun. First one coming up is May 14th. I will be having my local Detroit launch party at Red Hook in Detroit, and it's going to be so much fun. My friend's juice company, Drought, will be there. There'll be samples of juice. My other friend who makes these local journals that I've talked about a lot, it's the beautiful one that I use for my quote journal. She's going to be there with her handmade, really beautiful art journals that you can have and buy, and they're so beautiful. So she will be there. It's going to just be a really great time. There's a block party going on in the West Village that day, so it's going to be a great time. If you live close or even near in any way, you should come. It's going to be a blast. Then I will be in LA the end of May, and May 21st is my launch party there. So more info on that, how to get tickets, how to RSVP will all be in the show notes on my website, and I will be releasing more information as I go. And there's even more dates, even more things I'm doing. On May 28th, I'll be in Columbus, Ohio, doing an event at the Barnes & Noble there with my BFF, Simi, who you guys all, again, know from the podcast. So lots of cool things coming up. I'm probably going somewhere near you. I hope I get to meet every single person listening to this podcast. And I'm trying to talk really fast so we can get into the interview. And let's just go ahead and do that now. Talk to you guys soon. Love you. Welcome back, everyone. I could not be more excited for today's interview. I have so much in common and promote so many of the same things when it comes to food and body and yoga and life. And so for those of you who don't know, Emily Nolan is here. And let me introduce you to Emily if you don't know her. But I'll just give you some highlights before she really introduces herself to all of us. But she's a model and the founder of Topless Yoga, which is a bras on, bellies out, self-confidence events that are all over the country. And they're a tool to promote self-love, which I absolutely love. And it's all about exposing vulnerabilities and practicing radical self-acceptance. So it's so exciting to have you here, Emily. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Katie. I'm really excited too.
Yay. Okay, so Topless Yoga is amazing, and your website, My Kind of Life, is amazing. But I would love to know a little bit more. I'd like to zoom the lens back and know about how you got to where you are.
Sure, that's a great question. I think a lot of people are interested in that because what I do is really unique. So, to start my, let's say, post college career, I was on Capitol Hill working. Then I worked for my family's foundation and did a little real estate investment and financial stuff in terms of like managing portfolios and all the boring stuff. And I was scouted by a modeling agent when I was in working with my family and with in politics and whatnot. And the agent said I could get paid to travel the world, and so that sounded really enticing. And
Yeah.
I said, you know what, I think I was like 22 when she told me, and I waited a year thinking, is this really financially feasible? Can I take this risk on? And this is during the height of the recession. The market had just crashed, and I just thought it was crazy, and it was exciting, and I was young and resilient and had a lot of grit, and I just thought, you know what, now or never, and I want to see the world, whatever that costs me. I'll do whatever it takes. And so I started modeling a year later as a plus size. Well, I started as a straight size model and worked with Elite in Miami. I was a size zero, not a runway size zero, but like commercial clothing. I was probably a size four runway. And I had serious disordered eating for about 10 or 12 years. And that was like it had come and gone. And my disorders had shifted from, binging to starvation to bulimia or anorexia or body dysmorphic disorder. It was all over the board. And I think a lot of people can understand that or relate to it. If you've had any type of disordered eating, it kind of all comes together and you try whatever it takes to be thin or to feel worthy. And I decided that I wanted to be a plus size model, and I was sick of one of the relationships I was in, and I left him and called up the agent and said, I want to be a plus size model. And she said, great, gain 5 pounds. And that was all I had to do. And I instead gained 50 and felt so comfortable in my skin. I started plus size modeling. I moved to Miami and met my husband when I moved to Miami for modeling season. He was my neighbor. And I started modeling. It was slow in the beginning, but I was young and eager to learn. So I opened up like a raw vegan catering company. I kind of scrambled and did what I could entrepreneurially to continue this career of modeling and this dream of traveling the world. Then I got engaged. I moved to New York for modeling with Wilhelmina in New York. And then my career really took off. Started traveling the world. And all along, I had really, even though I felt empowered to be a plus size model, I should color in a little background for everyone listening and just let you know that, plus size model can be a size 6 to a size 18. And typically like a 6 to a 16 is what a board or an agency will bring on as talent. And I had been all of those sizes during my time as a plus size model. So you can, gather that, I had some type of body image disorder or eating disorders because I had flip flopped from so many different sizes. And I talk about that a lot on My Kind of Life and on my Instagram and on Snapchat and whatnot. So I struggled severely in my own privacy with my body image, and because of that had several plastic surgeries, including, like, I had my um, a breast augmentation, and I had liposuction all over my body in 16 different areas, which it's crazy. And you think about it, and I have something called factor 5, which is a blood clotting disorder. And so every time I decided I wanted to change my body, which is actually very common in the plus size modeling industry, and they won't tell you because there's a lot of shame behind it, because we're supposed to look curvy naturally, and in fact a lot of us are sculpted or enhanced, or whatever these girls are doing, their lips are done and whatnot. um, a lot of it is the same as being a straight size model. It's just like a larger size. So I had a lot of shame behind it, and it was things that were encouraged by my agency and accepted, widely accepted in the industry. And at the same time, talking about it was shamed. And, I couldn't live with myself, and thought, God, there's so many people that are going through this shame, not just models, but people in general, that, they have disordered eating, or they really have shame about the way their body looks, or there's things they can't talk about. And it doesn't even have to really do with body image, it could do with sexuality or relationships. And so I just started talking a little bit about the truth on my kind of life. I started talking about disordered eating because, in some sick way, it's socially acceptable to have disordered eating as a model. So I felt like it was safe territory for me to start my journey. And when I started talking about that, I thought, okay, well, this is like my dipping my toe into how clients, in terms of like my modeling clients and my agency, will react to me talking about the truth. And I'm just kind of going to test the water. So I dipped my toe in the water, and I started talking about disordered eating, and one thing led to another, and I started to talk about, I think the next thing was, um, what was it? It might have been liposuction or plastic surgery. I think it was like getting a breast augmentation, which is like every plus size model, almost every model has done something like that. And then I started talking about liposuction, and the last surgery was really shameful for me because it was something that I hid from my family. And I, went under surgery without saying, I thank you. I'm grateful for everything you've given me. And with the risks that I take with the blood disorder for factor 5, it's like, it's common that some people just have such an issue with surgery that they they pass during surgery because of clots. And I had been taking Lovenox and injecting myself for a month before surgery and a month after surgery to try and prevent that clotting and that risk. But you can tell, like, and gather from, just this short bit of me explaining my background, and I'll get to how I started Topless and whatnot, but that I was in so much pain to try and look a certain way and look a way that media wanted me to look and wanted me to act. And so because of that, I started Topless, and it was really this cathartic event, Topless Yoga, where I just felt like, for once, I wanted the universe to accept me and my size and just treat me like, an animal in the wild. Like, we never look at a tiger or a bear and be like, you're fat, tiger, or like, your stomach rolls, like, it's just nature, and it's beautiful, and it comes in all sizes, and, it fluctuates, and it's, I think about it like water, the water rises and then it dissipates or goes back, and it's calm, and it's chaotic. And I think, our bodies are, there's so much water in us that I can only relate to say, like, especially as a woman, everything I do will fluctuate, and that's beautiful because the ocean and the sea is always beautiful, no matter what the tide is or, how swollen it is. So I started to liken my body to nature because I thought, like, what media is telling us and the pressure that we get from culture and society to look a certain way isn't true. And what's true is what we see in the world. So I decided to get some of my friends together in Miami Beach and just to do a body empowerment meditation with our shirts off. And I filmed a video for it on my kind of life. And it was the first video I'd ever done. It was just produced by Mary Beth Koth, a local cinematographer. She does more like documentaries. And it was simple. It was so simple. We just sat on the beach. And from that moment, the executive vice president of branding and community at Lululemon, caught it on my Facebook feed because we're friends and we had met at a Mind Body Green retreat a few months prior. And she said, whatever you want, we'll support you. We love this message and it's just so real, right? And so I just started saying, okay, well, let's do a yoga class where we all take our shirts off and just embrace who we are in exactly the state we're in now. And, some people would come into this yoga class and, there were times where even I, as the one speaking at the classes, felt like, God, I'm the fattest version of myself today, or I'm so stuffed and I'm bloated, or sometimes it was even like, oh, I feel so skinny. And then when the pictures came out from the event, it was like, oh, wow, like I thought I looked a lot thinner than that. And so I just kept doing it because I know it felt so right to accept people for exactly how they are. And in a way, it's like exposing our vulnerabilities by taking our shirts off and practicing in our bras and supporting each other in our own truth, and that we are beautiful just the way that we are. And I know that sounds cliche and overused in so many different ways, but
it's true.
It's really true. And it's something that Topless, it reminds us that, our skin is good enough. And not that we need to strip down and be nude all the time and live in a nudist colony, but, we don't need all these labels protecting us to try and, build our ego or like make us seem more likable. That in fact, we are most likable when we are truthful and honest and sharing, what we are shameful about, because when we can share our shame, there is no more shame, because we realize, oh wow, like she's got the same issues that I'm going through, and that person's going through it too, and in fact it's all of us. So that's how Topless got started. And what else? Let's see.
That's perfect. Yeah. I think Brene Brown has this quote that like shame cannot exist or it can't live when it's shared. Sharing it dissipates it. And I think your story is so relatable and maybe kind of blown up and heightened because you were in the modeling industry, but even without being in the modeling industry, I think that so many women have the exact same experience, maybe just not quite so, visible or heightened, like I said, because, you are in the limelight and it's your career, your job was so focused on your body. But I think no matter what we do as women, we're judged on our bodies. There's so much thin privilege and fat stigma and craziness with the beauty standards that we're all constantly judged on the basis of size and weight every single day. So of course we are insecure, and of course we think about our bodies in these negative ways. So getting back to, like you said, the animal like wonder of our bodies, of like, wow, look what our bodies can do. There's nothing wrong with them because they don't fit this arbitrary standard of beauty that was set out for us in all these crazy ways. Because the funny thing about the beauty standards, and I'm sure that like this as well, is that we end up idolizing what is rare and what is difficult to attain and what costs money to attain, which right now in our society is a thin body shape, and so showing that showing people a different way to see it is so beautiful. And I'm just so incredibly, like, I could be moved to tears just hearing your story, because I'm so incredibly grateful for the work you do, and I'm just so happy to know you and have you on my show and to be able to promote you and work with you, because like I said, it's been my biggest struggle. It's been your biggest struggle. And for most of the people listening, like a lot of people listen to my show because they can relate to me and you. And so many women have, like you said, disordered eating. I think there's this statistic that 75% of women are disordered eaters, or have been at some point in their lives. And of course they have when the standards of beauty are as crazy as they are. So this is just so great to be having this conversation. And I'm just so grateful for the work you do. I just wanted to interrupt and honor you.
Well, I'm flattered, and I'm so happy with the work that you're doing and so grateful.
So
It's totally a sisterhood and teamwork. It's
there
not
so
one person.
is. It
Yeah.
so is. Like whenever I see anyone doing the similar work to me about body image and exactly, what we're talking about right now, I'm just so happy. And I literally am just like, go girl, like, oh yes, more. Like I want there to be more. Because if we have any chance of shifting things, we need so many more voices. And I often say this, but sharing any message, whether it's spirituality or yoga or anything with body image, people are going to resonate with different people. Some people will hear the message through you, Emily, some people through me, some people through, all different people.
Yep.
Who are doing this. It's like Mexican food, people like tacos, people like nachos, but at the end of the day, they're all getting the same nutrients, they're all getting the same message from all of us. Yeah, so it's really good. I wrote down a couple of things I wanted to like flesh out from your story. So when would you say the disordered eating started for you? I know you said it started even before you got into modeling. So it was was there a point in your childhood or in college, or like where did you think where was that moment where you realized that your body wasn't good enough and you wanted to change something about yourself?
Sure. So I was 14 and I was going grocery shopping with my mom. Excuse me. And we picked up a Vogue magazine in the line to check out. And I went to probably the centerfold of the magazine and saw Gisele Bundchen in a Cavalli campaign where she was stepping into the pool. I don't know if you remember that one.
Totally remember it. Yeah.
And I just thought, I was 14 and I thought, you know what? Like, is that what it takes to be loved? And so from there, I started, I don't know, I just came up with it. Maybe I read it somewhere, but I started doing fat-free. And everything had to be fat-free. And so for a while, I was only eating apples. And because I didn't realize, like, there were other things that didn't have fat in them. And I think fat-free was the craze at the time, too. So maybe I just picked it up socially or from a TV show or whatever. But that's what it was. It was looking at that magazine and thinking, oh, wow, like significantly different than the way I look when I step into a shower. Like I have, it was that like comparison and the evils of looking at one and saying like, I don't see me in this magazine. Everyone looks like this long torso, Giselle.
Right.
Yeah, that was the first moment.
So something else that you mentioned there about like the social craze, and that's something that I really, still to this day, to be honest, I struggle with the fact that, back then it was low fat. Now it's the health movement. I think which is great in a lot of ways. And I know you and I both like love to eat whole foods and healthy foods as much as the next guy, but we also, aren't judging ourselves regardless at this point. But I think what's difficult is, as the danger with the health movement that, people often hide behind it when really it's a diet, but they're just, using health as a way to manipulate their size and weight. And so with that, it's what I struggle with now is that people just it's become such a part of the dialect, and, you're bad if you eat this, and you're good at the moralizing of health, right, and of food. Yeah. And so how do you handle, people who maybe don't understand what you do or your message or where your past has been with food and body image, and are, getting into healthy eating and living and, maybe taking it to an extreme or maybe not, but there's just so much judgment there and moralization of health. And that's something that I struggle with, which is like, the conversation, like you said, it can be kind of for women, it can be kind of this like club of like, maintaining a weight or counting calories or doing paleo or doing raw, like whatever. Like, how do you navigate those waters?
Oh, that is a long and great question. And
Super long.
I'm going to tackle part of it because I'm passionate about some of the stuff you were saying about this obsession that we have with, I hate to use the word because it's such a great word, but like wellness is
Right.
such a beautiful thing, but we've taken it and made it like a Nazi group. And, if there's tons of orthorexia going on where people are obsessed with, getting the healthiest food possible, which I can understand where that sentiment came from. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel good. I have stomach issues. But we're taking so much out of our diet. And this is something I don't discuss. I just wrote an article about why I don't share my food. But I was vegan for 8 years and strict vegan, very strict. I would go to Germany and be working on a photo shoot there and only eat pretzels that hadn't been glazed with egg white. And they weren't allowed to slice it in half and because in Germany they'll cut it in half and put all these veggies and cheese and all this good stuff in it. And I was just so strict, and I just had read the China study and thought, I'm going to get cancer if I eat anything that's not vegan. And so it was so, I lived in a box basically. And looking back, I'm like, how did I do it? And I'm one of my girlfriends, Michaela Rubin, who is a holistic nutritionist and chef. She cooks for people like the Dalai Lama. She's just such an interesting, intelligent young woman. And I said, Michaela, like, I'm not comfortable talking about food anymore because there's so many people in the world that are qualified to talk about food. And there's even more people in the world who aren't qualified that are talking about food and making up these diets and, creating these sensations like paleo or vegan or Chegan or Pegan, like all of these different offshoots of these diets and low carb and low fat. I've done them all, and then you get stuck into this, like, for me, I got stuck into this box of like, she's strictly vegan, and I said, like, I don't want to be labeled anything anymore because like everything should be intuitive. And I think that's where a lot of us lie now, is like, we should just go back to saying like, I just want to eat healthy food wherever I'm at. If I'm traveling, I want like local food from Germany, or if I'm going to the heartland of America, like I'm going to have food that you find there, which is normal. I think that's just the way that we were designed to be as humans. And so anyway, I think that what's really important is that we eat to feel good, and we kind of create, our own diet, if you will, with, and I would say the most important thing is to work with people who are really intelligent with food and to kind of block out all of those like articles. And so I write for Mind Body Green, but you get a lot of these articles on the website that are written by people that had just graduated from like a nutrition school. Like I went to Cornell and did their master's program for plant-based nutrition, but I still don't feel like I'm qualified to talk about nutrition because it's so one-sided, and just like one semester, of learning about nutrition makes me qualified to tell everyone in the world like that they need to eat that way. No, I don't think so. So I'm in this point of my life where I don't even like to share pictures of my food anymore because I don't think that girls who follow me that have had disordered eating need to be comparing themselves or their diet to what I'm eating. There's certainly a lot of people in the world that they could compare themselves to and think like, oh, that looks like a healthy recipe that I could make, and not like, oh, what did she eat in a day? And, it was like a green juice and a tiny little salad and,
Yeah.
like a tiny little plate of noodles. Like, I don't know. Like, that's just, to me, I think that's bonkers. And it's also this media sensation where we just, I don't know, we're like all martyrs wanting to like kill ourselves over our diet. And there's so much more beauty to life that's like enjoying the food and enjoying the moment of sitting down with your family and not feeling like you can't eat there at that restaurant because there's no food there for you. And how many moments of my life did I like not even go to a family function or
Yeah,
just not
me
even
too.
converse with my family because we went to like a cafeteria or whatever, like
Right.
whatever, like eat and just enjoy life. It's so short
Yeah.
and beautiful. And the moment of just being with your family, that energetics of like that positive vibe and the love there that's like to
Healthy.
be, yeah. And I'll just expand a little bit more. Michaela Rubin, who I was talking about previous, told me about energetics and how food, and I don't, obviously I'm not qualified to talk about this, but food is really how you accept it. So like the studies were done on plant-based nutrition, and I'm sure like eating plants are wonderful, and I think that's a qualified answer, but it's interesting that energetically, like how we accept food is really how it reacts in our body. So if you have guilt behind something, our body will feel like guilty. But if you have love behind something, it'll be like, okay, like here's some energy we can use. Like, I'm so glad you took care of yourself and did something like warm and like sweet or whatever you want. And he told me about the apple experiment. Have you seen that? Where they cut it in
Yes.
half
Oh my
and
gosh,
you
it's
talk one
crazy.
apple, half the apple negatively and the other one really positively. And she said, like, that's the way food is it's energetic. It's all energy. Calories are energy. And so that was kind of my turning point from being strict vegan to saying like, oh, I don't have guilt anymore when there's cheese on my salad, or like it's not a big deal if there's egg in my dressing, or like if I want a piece of fish on my salad, like okay, like many blessings and I'm
Hmm.
so grateful and like thank you for serving me this.
Yeah.
So I kind of shifted my thought process so that I can travel the world and have these amazing relationships with people and energetically feel like whole and not guilty.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful story to share. And you're right. I mean, as humans, we have so few sensory pleasures. To deny one of them completely is just crazy. Our ancestors would have been so confused as to why we're constantly trying to eat the smallest amount possible when there's so much food available. And I mean, I wonder if you relate to this. I think for me, I was listening to your story and kind of thinking about my own, and I think for me, my vegan and my raw vegan and whatever I did after that, was really, I found those parameters very comforting. I found a lot of comfort in being able to be known as that, oh, Katie eats this way. She's not going to have any of that. Or, I can't go to this restaurant, or I can't do that. Or I'm going to just get, like, I didn't have to think about it. It was just like, it was what I was doing, and I didn't have to, I just was able to put myself in this box, and it becomes comforting when it's like, a way for you to deny yourself these pleasures. And you almost, if you get really into it, like you in Germany, you don't realize in that moment like you're missing out. You're just kind of like, this is what I do. And
Oh
then
yeah.
for me there was so much judgment attached to it. And I was basically like, I remember, as crazy as this sounds, like sizing up everyone's plate all the time. Like, ugh, that food combination, damn. Or like,
Yeah.
she's eating that. Oh man. Like, but really, it was like, I wish I could eat that and be okay with it, was really what the judgment was. And it was
Right.
judgment towards myself, because anytime we're judging anyone else, it's toward ourselves. So it's just crazy. And now I'm just such a cooler person because I'm not constantly, it takes a lot of energy and willpower to control your body and to control your diet so much and to not eat intuitively and to focus on these things. It takes so much willpower. And I think that's why there's so many health bloggers and there's so many food Instagrams, and it's like food all the time, and YouTubers and whatnot, because people are needing support to be able to do this thing that's really unnatural and really difficult. So they're, getting the support from people who are also in this maybe disordered spot by, sharing online all the time. And do you think that might be something that's happening right now as we see so many more people kind of going down that path and then coming out the other end, kind of where we are now?
So do I think that bloggers are creating this environment and support system for people in these diets?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's both cases. I'm sure it's not, of course, everyone, but I think, sometimes there's always more to the story that we might not see in the beautiful pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's trendy. So
Right.
there's, some people that will ride that wave, and then there's some people that have rode that wave and decided not a fulfilling wave, right? Like it could fulfill a lot of people, and I know many people where it seems to fulfill them in a way, but yeah, I mean, it's this, like I said, it's this sensational thing. Food should, I like to think that food should not be the only conversation, but it should create conversation. So it should gather people and create, loving environments. But because we want what we can't have as human beings, that we decided like, oh, we're going to start this marketing thing and we're going to tell people they can change their body if they just like, don't eat like they normally do and switch up their eating patterns. Like who was the first person that created a diet? I don't know.
And it's become so normalized.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, like I wrote an article, was several days ago, and I just said that, I lived with, it was actually an Instagram post on one of my most recent posts. It said that I had lived with 12 years of disordered eating, thinking that everyone ate that way and that it was completely normal.
Yeah.
And then, like, I kept it a secret. And then when I finally started talking about it and went to outpatient therapy in college, I decided, like, oh, maybe it's not so normal, or maybe it still is normal, but so many people aren't talking about it. And like you said, 75% of people, and I don't know if that's a NEDA statistic, but I know 3 out of 4 women diet constantly or diet almost all the time is one of the statistics on the National Eating Disorder Association. And I think, and to get back to your question, I definitely think that there are bloggers that create that support system, and it's kind of like, it's dangerous territory because, they're getting paid, and I was getting paid to be a vegan blogger. So I was promoting all these vegan products and getting paid to do it, which is, it's exciting, and so you kind of get trapped, and then you're like, well, I'm not a vegan anymore. What do I do? I'm like, now can I promote any food products? How do I change my business model? So I went through that shift a couple of years ago as, as being touted as some body image warrior, as a plus size vegan model. And now I'm like, why would a model talk about food, or like, where's my qualification that's
right.
Where I could write a book about food, and I don't mind talking about it because we should have conversations around everything. But when have I ever been like a MD or PhD, years of intense studying and scientific projects? Like, no, I haven't. And all I know is that take a probiotic every day, like my stomach has no problems, and I can tell you that, like, that's my science project.
Yeah. So with kind of the state of the wellness world, and like you said, it being so trendy in this one particular way, I think that the word wellness really should mean, physical wellness, but also spiritual wellness and your relationships and your mental health and all of these other, your space, all of these other areas in your life. but it's not really associated with that right now because this one area of wellness, the physical, is so revered right now. So I would love to know where you would like to see the wellness and health industry in, say, 10 years, and also the beauty industry and the modeling industry.
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay, so 10 years, I'll be 39 years old, and I'll probably have children, hopefully. So, where would I want to see the wellness and health industry? I think I would like to see it. I think it'll probably continue being what it is. So, let's be realistic. I think it'll just be like, what it is, but cracked out and so many different little diets. But where would I like to see it? Um, I would, if if anything were possible, I would just like to see food as not a conversation, but more of like if you're ill, you need help or you need like a nutritionist, right? Like if you've got loony in your head, you need to go to like a psychiatrist.
Right.
And so I think I would like to see it like that, where it was almost less of a conversation, or if it was a conversation, it was more about nutrition and feeling good. And I can imagine talking to my children about, like, well, what are you in the mood to eat? You know, even where did this come from? Who grew it? All of these questions are so cool, and possibly even growing my own food. I think that's what I would like to see for the health and wellness industry in terms of food. Spirituality, I watched two movies recently, documentaries. Have you seen I Am?
Yes. Yeah, it's so good.
Amazing, right? And then I watched one last night. I've been interested not in doing it, but just in the plant medicine itself in ayahuasca, because there's a lot of people in Miami doing it, and I want to understand what they're doing and why. So I watched this documentary called Ayahuasca, the Vine of Spirit or of Mother or whatever, and it was really interesting because one of the points they made was one of the guys that was journeying into trying ayahuasca and doing a documentary on it said, he grew up without a foundation of spirituality, and he felt like that was missing in his life, and so he always felt like kind of this free molecule, like loose wheel where nothing ever was connected. So he was doing this journey to um, maybe like find spirituality, or he wasn't sure what was going to happen, and he ended up finding like this really deep connection to Mother Earth and the world. And for me, I grew up as a Southern Baptist in a very Northern Virginia family where my dad's from Alabama, my mom was from Texas. My preschool was at the church, and then my family got divorced. My parents got divorced, and from that moment, I turned into this like angsty atheist, and then in high school, I started going back to church and listening to what people said about spirituality, and it was a non-denominational church. And in college, I was kind of like, I'm not so crazy anymore, because I was like, angsty again and conflicted, like every college woman is. And then after college, I just started thinking, like, people like Rob Bell blow my mind.
Yeah.
And his story, like that whole Christian mysticism, and I can't say that there's one thing that is true. I just think all of spirituality is so beautiful and so important, and we lack that in such a modern world. And it's so nice to have spiritual leaders from all backgrounds teaching us about stories. Even like for me, the story just listening about to Jesus and his crucifixion and how he would talk about forgiveness. Like for me, forgiveness is such a powerful lesson. And one of my favorite quotes is, "Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds onto the heel that crushes it." And what a lesson to learn, right? Like what a life lesson, and that's spirituality based.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. I think going back to the wellness industry in 10 years, I hope that it can be, shifted, because enough right now it's so saturated with, like you said, the nutritionists and the health coaches, and there's just so many of them, and I see that growing and growing and growing. But I also hope that voices like us, also increase, and showing, another side of it, and that, that is popular as well, and almost trendy as well. Because I know for me, and I wrote about this in an article recently too, that like you almost feel, and you talked about this a little bit, that you're like invited into this exclusive club when it comes to, being the vegan, or, just into health and wellness in general. It's like, this trendy thing that like everyone from Jay-Z and Beyonce are doing, and you were doing before that, kind of. And so it's like you're part of this craze, and then we're saying that we're not anymore. So I kind of want to make this other thing trendy and cool as well, by having conversations like this, and and doing things to make that cool. So by the time your kids are growing up, there will be another way to see it. But I often get kind of frustrated with the fact that, us talking about this comparatively with the bigger conversation of, green juice and veganism and restricting your diet and work out more and eat less, is so much. There's so many more voices there. So do you ever get discouraged of, our message being, there's more people, there's so many people that need it, I guess, with that's kind of the good thing with the growth of the traditional health and wellness. But do you ever get discouraged with, that maybe it's not as popular as those things?
Yes, 100%. And I just went through this like mini anxiety attack the other day, and told my husband, like, oh my God, what am I doing? I just feel like what I'm doing is worth so much more. It's just what we're doing, Katie, is plowing this path, and there were people that did this for the green juice and like health and nutrition. Yeah. That road too. And it's so hard to be this paving entrepreneur when this is all new territory for us to not be obsessed with something, like, well, who's going to support us or who's going to like have us review their products, or, like endorse us or sponsor us, if like we stand for just being intuitive,
Yeah.
And so and actually there are brands that are really interested in that now, because I really do believe that this is an area that hopefully is maybe as big, or hopefully larger than the area that we came from, in terms of like dieting and holistic nutritionists and whatnot. And I was gonna make one more point on it. Maybe I'll remember it later. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it can just seem like that really helped me, actually. So thank you, because I feel like I'm always kind of having that breakdown of like, I want everyone to know this message, but not everyone's ready to hear this message, and and it can be hard. But I really like what you said about, we're paving the way, and other people had to do that for stuff that's trendy right now years ago. So
Totally.
So hopefully, by the time you are 39, and 10 years, there'll be, more voices like this, and we'll have a bigger platform to share this work that like I said, people need, and I just want them to have so much. And it's helped me so much, and having you in my life, and so many other people doing similar things really helps me feel less alone and keep going with what I'm doing. So that's why I think it's important that everyone has community and supports each other, because I really truly believe that like it's not possible to love your body fully and accept yourself and eat intuitively at all unless you have community and positive role models. Because in a society, in a world, in a culture where all day long if you open a magazine or watch TV or watch movies or just go to a coffee shop and overhear people talking about,
Yeah.
inputting their stuff in MyFitnessPal and, how many calories their muffin had and how much they hate their body and how much they're going to run to work it off. And like, you can't turn on anything without someone telling you that your body's not good enough and what you ate isn't good enough. And so
Yep.
I think it's important to, like I've been saying a million times, to have conversations like this and support. So that's so great. And another thing I wanted to ask you too, so about the beauty and modeling industry, where do you see that ever shifting to, be a bit more? I mean, you are in the plus size modeling world, which is amazing, and actually how I found you, because a mentor of mine, healing my eating disorder and body dysmorphia, the biggest thing, the only proven way to help your body image is exposure therapy. So looking at people your size or bigger that are aspirational, so like plus size models, is really helpful. So I would love to see, the plus size modeling industry like kind of working with that, but also, being more gentle with themselves, and just the beauty and modeling industry being more gentle in general. Do you see that shifting with more conversation around it? Where would you like to see it, and where do you kind of see it going?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Um, so I left New York City when I was modeling up there because I really just needed time to stop and reflect. What am I doing? What kind of message am I spreading? And at that point, I wasn't being really honest about my entire story, which was very common for most plus size models. I when I felt like, okay, I'm healed and at least like I'm talking about my story, what I found was, even though I had modeled all over the world and was able to make an agent significant amounts of money by working, I was a liability. And that's what I learned is I would go to the agencies and say like, all right, I'm ready to model again. I still have an agency, several of them, large agencies, but in terms of modeling, you have different agencies in different places and whatnot. And all the agencies that spoke English, so in the US or in Canada, or Canada's actually totally different. They're really open to this idea of like, let's talk about the truth. We want to be transparent and be vulnerable, etc. It makes you more appealing and more relatable. But in the US, a lot of it was like, you are too much of a liability to take on because you're telling the truth, basically. And they couldn't tell me that to my face, but they said, oh, we're so happy to promote your work. We love your work, but we just can't take you on our board. And so I was thinking, oh, how interesting. Like they're
Because of
lying.
what you're sharing?
Yes, they don't want to have a plus size model on their board talking about plastic surgery and like, exposing it, and then to be the agency that took that girl on. Like it's too much of a liability. So I just thought, how interesting that we're promoting. And I didn't bring this up, and maybe if I was a little bit more like courageous, I would have. Or, yeah, but maybe I'll write about it. And it was just interesting to be in a meeting and have them boldly tell me that they want their models to be involved in my work, like to say, oh, they're sending their models to my Topless Fashion Week event to promote like body empowerment. But the girls they're sending, guess what? They're the ones that are all like tweaked out, had their bodies changed, plastic surgery, lips like crazy enhanced, and that's cool. I mean, like if that's what you want to do, if it's out of self-love and it makes you feel better, like I'm pro making your own choices and have plastic surgery, whatever. But if you're doing it out of shame and like because we're robots of an industry and like because you're not feeling loved or worthy in exactly who you are, then then there needs to be conversation around it. It's not like you should feel ashamed that you've had plastic surgery or whatever. So it was very interesting and a great picture into the modeling industry and where it's going is that, everything, and I know that you know this, especially as a blogger and doing what you're doing now, is um, the the models and the beauty industry, everything is fake. They buy their followers on Instagram and they buy their likes. And so, like, I just followed or I looked at a new model
I didn't
Wilhelmina.
even know you could do that.
What?
I didn't even know that you could like buy likes on
Katie,
Instagram.
Google it. Google it. It's insane. You can like there's this new
Like
model.
advertising, like Facebook?
No, no. Like you can buy your followers. So you can go from like 1,000 followers to 1 million in a day.
Wait, what? But wouldn't people notice? Like, dude.
Yes, but they're like no one really like. I mean, I think you probably gradually do it, but this has been going on for so long.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're like blowing my mind right now.
I
So
know. And
I'm like
it's
living
like,
under a rock.
why do people not know this? I have no idea, but it's going on, and people don't talk about it because they want to seem very popular as a model or an influencer. And so these agencies are bringing on these girls that buy, like, if you go to, you can easily find out who's being like fake followed or whatever. And there's these robot accounts that come from like these Instagram farms or whatever they call them,
Oh
and
my gosh.
it's on everything. You can do it on Snapchat too.
What?
Yeah, everything. Everything. Because these people, these influencers, whether they're models or beauty bloggers or whatever, are getting paid to review products. And so
So are
the
they robots? Sorry, I'm like I
yeah,
can't. So are they
the
robots
likers,
that are following
the
them?
likers are robots.
Okay,
And you
so it's not real. It's not like they have real followers then.
I mean it shows up as real. You know, there's no way you can tell unless you go in and like click on all the accounts
Right, but they're
following.
like not promoting stuff to like real people who would like actually want to hear their message.
Right. Well, I
They're
think there's like a way you can, but I don't like there's a legitimate way that probably large brands do that, you know, and do it well because it's better to have a loyal following than a huge
right,
following.
right.
But yeah, it's happening all over. And this new model gets on a board at Wilhelmina. Yesterday, I saw this post.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we're so excited for, I won't say her name, to be on our board. She's best friends with Kylie Jenner, la la la. And they did this whole article on her in Teen Vogue, this crazy article. And they go to her Instagram. I'm like, who is this chick? I want to figure it out. This is great. Like a young plus size model. It's exciting. She has like 56,000 followers and over 2,000 likes on a picture with zero comments. And so it's just very obvious that, you know, like on my pictures, I get like, I don't know, like 500, 300 to 600 likes, or sometimes I got like 1,000 on one, whatever. But, you know, like the comments are like 100 comments per picture, you know, and people engage and they want to talk about the story that I wrote. And these people, you can tell they're paying for all of this and just totally faking it. And then what happens is that clients will say, like, I'm not even going to say a company name because I don't want to get in trouble for it, but let's just say, like, any client that's booking a model for a shoot will go onto her social media page and say, like, okay, this girl's going to take pictures at our
Right.
shoot and she's going to post about it, and 56,000 people will see it. So we're getting more value with her. But what they don't realize is that all of those 56,000 people are fake. They're like
Robots.
farmed from India and it's fake.
Wow.
Yeah,
This
so
is blowing my mind.
yeah, it's a crazy industry built on untruth, really, you
Well,
know,
it's
and
crazy how much social media has even changed the game in every industry, but in modeling because, you know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that probably wasn't even a conversation. It wasn't
yeah,
even like an added benefit for them to get exposure from the actual model.
yeah, totally. And you know, it's something that you were asking about, like how sometimes you struggle thinking, like, am I doing the right thing? Or like, gosh, it's so hard doing what we're doing, but we're plowing the way. It's so easy for me to go on and just say, like, I'm just gonna buy like 20,000 followers, you know, because if I did, I would get so much more recognition, right? Like that 20,000 would change my life, which it wouldn't, but
Yeah.
you know,
And
like
it'd be fake. It wouldn't be real people.
right. But no, but like you said, like you didn't even know it. And most of the world has no idea.
Right.
And it's just like, I struggle with that thinking like, God, it'd be so easy. But at the same time, like, what's the value in having 20,000 fake followers when, you know, the ones that I have are so loyal and comment and like are, you know, send me the most intimate stories about
Yeah.
their recovery and addiction and whatever. It's just like,
Yeah,
it's,
same.
yeah, it's one of those like, you know what, I'm just going to be strong and do the right thing and share what I know is like real and authentic and let other people dabble in this fakeness and you know but exposing the truth is important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my following is, relatively like teeny tiny, but I love them and they love me and they're like my
Yeah.
people, and so I'm grateful for them. And I think too the thing that I find really interesting is that, in what we were saying before about plowing the way, it's I never really question if what we're doing is right. Like I know it's the right thing, but
Hmm.
it's that quote I remember being like on the wall in like my fourth grade classroom of like what is popular isn't always right and what is right isn't always popular. And I remember being that's so dumb and stupid and like I want to like be a badass and like not do the right thing.
Right.
But it's exactly true right now. Like what I'm doing is right, but it's not popular. And I think a lot of people, like I know that like I heard this message for a while of like body image and all this stuff, and I was like, ugh, the word body, gross. Like I don't even want to do that. Like ugh. Like I don't even like I. It just sounded so like uncool to me, and I was
Right.
just like, I don't want to do body image work. I just want to get thin, like, and then I won't care. And I did, and then it got me into like a scary place. So I think it's and then here I am. So I
Yep.
I think it's important to have different voices, like we were saying at the beginning, the whole Mexican food thing, because I think we need to make it cool. Like I think we need to make body image cool. Like green juice is now cool and
Right.
trendy, and that's the thing that I really like take upon myself, and you're doing, and because you are like one of the coolest people that I follow and know. And so it's
You
really
too.
it's really great, but it's also like we've been saying, it's hard because it would be so much easier for me to be like green juice and blah 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 blah. Like I would get followers so much quicker because that's such a
I know.
mainstream trendy thing, and
Yeah.
also it's what I used to do.
Right.
So and then when I was doing it, it wasn't even quite as trendy as it is now. and
Hmm.
and I felt like I was like a trailblazer in that, and then now I'm like, wait a minute, maybe that's not everything. It's part of it, but it's not everything.
Right.
And yeah, so it's just really good. So okay, just a couple more questions I want to
Love
ask you about.
that.
This is so amazing. So, um, do you ever still? And this is something that I was thinking about when you were talking about Topless before, and how I love the way you described it, and I'm not gonna like say it as eloquently as you did, but basically how women are exposing themselves and like unafraid to show their bodies, where like I know for me, I've gained a ton of weight since my eating disorder. My body's changed a ton, and of course none of my clothes fit, so I had to buy all new clothes. And then when I was buying clothes, I just before I would wear like really, trendy, cute things and crop tops, and everything was really tight. And then as soon as my body changed, all of a sudden I like only want to wear like really baggy things. And luckily a lot of that's like in style right now, and I hope it like never goes out
Right.
of style because it's so comfortable. But like all I want to be in is like caftans and like, really flowy things, which, are also cute, but I've just not I haven't worn a crop top, and I just because I think I had this body that like looked like a runway model unhealthily, and I could never stay there, but I just am comparing myself to myself, and so I'm not dressing in that way. So I want to talk a little bit about like style and dress, especially as a model. Like how do you make yourself feel better with what you wear and how you dress? And also, do you ever still have what I call, like bad body image days where, you're wearing something and you feel really great, but you like look at, like you said, a picture of yourself, or you're a weird look in the mirror and you're just like spiraling, or you like feel bad about yourself, or you just don't feel good about yourself that day. And like, so if you do, how do you handle that and shift out of it?
Cool. Have you read the book The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
obsessed with it.
Me too. So
I just did
I
my closet.
what's that? You
I
did
just
your
did my
closet.
closet and my books. I'm like working through it kind of slowly.
Amazing. It's such a good
Oh, it's
process. And
amazing.
for me, it really helped me pick my wardrobe out and what makes me feel joy. So
Mm-hmm.
her philosophy on hold it, put it on, try it on. Does it bring you joy? If yes, keep it. If no, ditch it or give it away. And so I was holding on to so many things that I had worn maybe once, things that still had tags on them that I thought, oh, I'll like fit into them in the summer, or oh, like I can't breathe when I sit down in these, but they look cute when I stand up, right? Like all of my
Right.
high-waisted jeans, they like suffocate me, even if they're the right size.
Yeah.
So
I always have to just like unbutton them when I'm driving, just
yeah,
because like they fit like fine. It's not even the size. It's just like when you sit, the button like goes in, right?
yes,
It's not
it
just
cuts
me.
into your lungs.
Yeah.
It's like not right. Yeah. And I'm sure it happens to everyone, but I'm just like more vocal about it because when I get little anxiety attacks, which is not often, but it feels like an anxiety attack when I'm in those pants because I can't breathe.
Right.
It's like cutting into me. So, all of those things I just gave away. And I realized what's really important in terms of dressing for me is nailing like my style, which is basic classic things, like the simple black dress. I have denim dresses. I do a lot of flannel tops and blue jean shorts, denim shorts, and sandals. I'm very casual. I have a few really nice dresses, and I'm all about wearing dresses over and over and over and over and over again. And I also talk about that on my blog because we as a culture don't like to get our picture on Instagram wearing the same thing twice. Like, oh, I've already worn this. People have seen me wear it. Please don't post that picture. And I just think that's so messed up and so new and backwards. And I'm so happy if I find a dress that looks amazing on me that I'll wear it so many times. And in fact, I'll buy like a wedding dress for not like a bride dress, but like a dress to wear to other people's weddings. And I'll wear it to everyone's wedding that year and it's my thing. And I'll buy like
Yes.
one great dress from Intermix and spend like drop a fortune on it, or like whatever looks good on me. Might not be from Intermix, but buy one dress that brings me so much love and joy, and I'll wear the same thing over and over. And guess what? Every time I get to the event, they're like, "Oh, you look so good! It looks amazing! Oh, you look beautiful!" And that dress brings me so much joy. So I keep it simple, and I have my favorites. And what's really important is that all of my outfits allow me to breathe. And what I found is when I was modeling is sometimes like, and I still am modeling, but when I was like in New York doing the whole thing and had to look the part, etc., you wear things that are trendy and things that cut into your stomach and things that don't make you feel confident. And for me, it's really important to pick outfits that make me feel confident, which is basically casual outfits. So normally I'm in like a casual outfit. Yoga pants are great. And then what was your second question?
Like, do you ever still have
Oh,
bad body image days or
yeah.
a day when you don't feel good about yourself, and how do you like
Yeah.
shift out of that so it doesn't become a bad body image like week or month? Or because sometimes when I
Right.
really struggle with it, it can linger and it can make me feel unmotivated.
Right. So my progression through body image and my personal acceptance of it has been insane. It's in the beginning, it started off like, okay, like I'm a plus size model, I'm allowed to be this size. And to progress into like my first topless event, which was a radical shift for me to take my shirt off in public and practice yoga in my sports bra. Even though I'm a lingerie model for plus size lingerie, like underwear, I still thought like, well, I'm not in the studio and I shouldn't expose my body because socially it's still like taboo or unacceptable, and only skinny people do that. And so over time, and that was 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago when I started Topless, and I ended up continuing this self love journey where I was talking to myself and all like I started to always go to yoga. Where when I was always going to yoga, I would always take my top off, and then I started jogging with my shirt off, and really like forcing myself to accept myself because I'd written all these rules in my head that I wasn't good enough, and I knew it was all like, sorry to cuss, but like it was bullshit, right? All of this stuff we make up about body image is crap. It's really about the way we feel, and getting back to like our organic self and how we feel in our skin. And if there was no size on anything, would you feel fat if you were given a dress without a size and some girl another size was given a dress without a size and you're wearing the same dress? Like you would just think, oh, okay, like we're wearing the same dress. There's no size on it. I don't feel any different. But I will tell you, the other day I was in yoga and every girl in the class was very thin, and even the guys were really fit. And the only ones with their shirt off were the very thin girls and the very fit guys. And the class wasn't that busy. And I thought, oh, that little man that's sitting on my shoulder whispering, "You're not good enough to take your shirt off," in this class was whispering to me again. And I thought, you know what, you're not going to defeat me. So I took my shirt off, and it was one of those moments where I was feeling really bloated and like fat, right? Like it's the only way I can think about like how I felt. I just felt like the biggest version of myself at the time after Thanksgiving and whatever. And I was like, you know what? Go back to what I know, Emily. I fluctuate, and everyone fluctuates. We are nature, we are water, we are all changing, and it's every part of that is beautiful, whether it's the ocean is swollen or the ocean is receding and going back, like I'm beautiful in every stage of my body. And so that's the practice I do, like when I'm feeling that self-doubt, because there's no way, never say never, but I never want to go back to that moment of such severe self-hate and doubt and sabotage. And I know we both know what's true now, like we've been exposed to it. So in a way, like we have to carry that torch, and we have to do this for like, social good and wellness. So that's where I am in terms of body image. I think that actually took like a lot of radical self-acceptance. So it's probably more of an outliers experience. But I think once you understand that what you've been fed in terms of what type of body image is appropriate and what is not, or acceptable and what is not, once you understand that that's just crap and it's made up to try and sell you gimmicks and lifestyles that are unattainable, then you have this like social duty to live your life, to be brave enough to believe in what you know is to be true, which is, I am nature, I am God, I'm a piece of the world, and the world changes,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're so inspiring. I could listen to you all day. So now I want to ask you my signature question. So what does your morning routine look like? What are some of the first things you do when you wake up in the morning? And just give us a like picture into your morning.
Yeah, so I always make my bed first, and I make coffee, and I honestly check my emails, and usually we'll go for like a 30 to 45 minute run in the morning, and like 3 times or 4 times a week if I can, if I don't have morning meetings. And then I get started writing. And that's if I'm not modeling. If I'm modeling, my call times are usually like 6:30, and I'm on set getting my hair and makeup done, and I shoot all day.
Cool. What about your evenings? What do you do, the last few things you do before you go to bed, and how do you wind down and relax at the end of a long day?
Hey, I make a cup of tea. I'm obsessed with Rishi's new turmeric and ginger tea. I don't know if you've had
Ooh,
it.
I saw
Oh,
it either on your Snapchat or,
Snapchat.
yeah, I just saw it
Yeah.
somewhere. Yes, I was like, it
Oh
must
my
have been
God.
you.
It is amazing. I mean, I love turmeric and ginger, and together it's just amazing.
I'm going to
But
get it. Sounds
oh
so
yeah,
good.
caffeine free. So I have that, and then I just read for about an hour, 45 minutes before bed. My husband loves to watch TV. We don't have a TV in our bedroom because I just feel like I like to wind my day down and watch TV. I also, and then, or read a book, I'm sorry, and then I just pass out. But what I also do is I try and eat before 7 p.m. and I try to eat lighter for my dinner and eat heavier during the day, or not heavier, but like eat my larger meal during the day, and which is like what I would not do when I was going through disordered eating. I would starve myself during the day and sleepwalk at night into the kitchen and eat like an entire tub of peanut butter and a whole box of cereal and just in everything that Weight Watchers was like, don't eat, whatever. So
Yeah.
now I try and like keep my evenings calm if possible, if I'm not like going out for a meeting or meeting with another couple, whatever. So I love that though. It makes me feel calm when there's not a lot of energy going into my body in the evening. As long as I'm, satisfied. I'm not trying to starve myself. But I love to have like a soup with like some crackers, some Mary's Gone Raw, or,
Oh, those are
just
so good.
yeah, they're so good and they make me feel good. And sometimes I want to overindulge, and I know I'm like, you know what? You're going to feel so much better in the morning if you indulge more in the afternoon, because then you can use that energy throughout the day. And I love doing that. It works for me. And sometimes I get, screwed up with the holidays and I'm eating late or whatever. But if I can get back onto that routine, I really like it. And I don't think that it's a diet. I actually think my body responds well to it. And it's not restricting. It's just like, it's warm and it's nourishing and it's comforting before bedtime.
That's amazing. That's great. What is the biggest goal you're working towards now?
Biggest goal. That's a great question. Well, I have several goals. I'm writing a book, I'm writing my memoir.
Yay! It's going to be
Yay!
amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm working very hard on it, and it's definitely, it's one of those things that could impact a lot of people. And so I'm taking it very seriously.
Yeah. That's so good. I'm so glad you're doing that. Okay, so some more quick fire questions. What's your favorite yoga pose?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, my love-hate relationship with yoga poses is pigeon pose. Sometimes I just love it because it's at the end of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm getting to the end. Shavasana is near, and it's so good for my hips too.
I feel the
Um,
same way.
yeah, so I love pigeon pose, but there's some like sometimes triangle feels good because I can work on like really trying to expand and get my heart to open up more, like a side angle pose where sometimes I'll take my elbow to the inside of my knee and put like if I'm in a left side angle, put my left hand on my belly to remind myself that this is just like flesh. And so there's some poses where I can maintain the same posture, but bring my hands to a part of my body that I want to bring more love to. And so side angle seems
Mm,
to be a good one because it's kind of discreet and also heart opening.
that's great. I'm going to do that next time I'm in that pose.
Yay!
What's one food you could eat every day?
Oh, avocado.
Yeah. Avocado with Mary's crackers dipped into it. So
Oh, yes,
good.
definitely.
What's your favorite place you've ever traveled to?
Favorite place I've ever traveled to? Well, I have a lot, but I like to go to Idaho. My family has a house out there, and I feel like really connected to nature. And I've been all over the world, so I really enjoy. I love so many places, really. But Idaho, there's some like grounding sense out in the mountains there, and I just feel very spiritual.
Cool. Very cool. What's your favorite thing about your life right now?
That I'm able to do what I'm doing.
Hmm.
Financially, I'm in a safe place and my husband's very, very supportive. In fact, the other day when we had the conversation, like, is this sustainable? He was like, I like you have worked so hard for this and you have like clawed and just dug your way to this part of your life. Like you are the one, like you are gonna do this. I
Mm.
believe in you and I think I'm just really proud of that.
I love how supportive he is. That's so great.
Yeah, it's really comforting.
What's the time that you've laughed the hardest?
Oh my god. Um
If you can remember one or one
yeah,
recently.
yeah, that's great. So does it have to be recent?
No, whenever.
Okay. So I just wrote an article about addiction and how I'm sober, but some of the funniest moments came when I wasn't sober, and we were drinking one night in college, and we all decided to go to this Irish bar, and I we had 2 beach bikes. There's 3 girls, 2 beach bikes and rollerblades. And one of the beach bikes had a flat tire, but they were all my bikes and my rollerblades. And so I was like, well, I obviously get the good bike. You get the bike with the flat tire, and you have to ride rollerblades to this Irish bar. This is from my house. And so the girl with rollerblades was so drunk, and she ended up going down the street, and it was like the smallest hill, but she was going so fast. And she went over this main street, which there was never any traffic. It was like a country road, and just like totally ate it. And the girl with the flat tire was like, "Oh no, I'm coming to get you!" And her like bike wouldn't make, and I was just dying because anything where people like don't die but they hurt themselves makes me laugh so hard. And I know it's so bad of me, and it's like my guilty pleasure, but I just think it's hilarious. And so those, I mean, I've got so many funny stories, like chasing my dog one night before I went out and forgetting the leash, trying to find her, and then carrying back like 55 pounds of lab in heels. Like I'm about to.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just like, I've got one after the other. And just to like give you a little more color on sobriety, I chose sobriety not because I was an addict, but because I like to be sober in terms of like being close to God, and I feel spiritually like comfortable in my skin. So I did it more from like a body image, like I don't ever want to leave my body because I'm working so hard to feel comfortable in it. So that's why I chose sobriety.
Cool, very cool. Okay, so now can you please recommend a movie, a song, and a TV show and a book? So it can be something you're into lately, or it can be something that you like really love, but yes, in those categories. So
okay, so the movie that I just saw, I Am, was really great. It was a documentary, and I think that's a beautiful movie. And then a song, well, I love so many different songs, but the one song that, I mean, my girlfriend Sky Dyer sings it. It's Wayne Dyer's daughter.
Yeah.
And she sings I Am Light.
Oh, yeah, the NDRE song. I think I've seen her sing it before.
Oh, it's so beautiful. She sings it at Topless. And that song just always, I don't know, it just is so true to nature, to the world, to humanity. And book, well, I spent my summer with Cheryl Strayed at a writer's workshop.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
So I'll recommend Wild.
Wow.
Wild, and yeah, I really enjoy her work in like the feminist power behind it, and not even just like straight feminist, but just being equal, right?
Yep.
So I think that's always a great book. And then what was the last one?
TV show.
TV show? Well, I'm addicted to Homeland.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but maybe I should.
Oh, well, I'm from Washington, D.C., so
it's
all about national security. And
very cool.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's why no one could tell me what their parents did growing up.
Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so last question I ask everyone. What does living in a wellness wonderland mean to you? What comes up when I offer that term?
I think just being accepted for your journey and where you are, and for change, or for what you bring to the table, that one unique thing. And that's kind of where I am in terms of wellness right now, is honing in on my one unique thing that I offer the world and allowing other people to find it.
Amazing. I love that so much, and I love everything you shared. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Katie. You're so kind, and I love your work.
Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.